Industry, Southern Region as a HR subcommittee. So this is a brief introduction about sir. Sir, it's our immense pleasure to have you on this occasion, sir. Now over the session to the resource person.
Good morning. Hope you can all hear my voice, and
Yes, sir.
I'm
You are
really
audible, sir.
okay. Fine, great. So I'm really excited to be sharing my thoughts on reflection with you. Let me share my screen and start the presentation. Okay, hope you can see my slide here. Hello.
Yes, sir. We can see your presentation, sir.
Okay, fine. And can all of you mute your speakers, your microphone? Please mute your microphone because I can hear some voices. If you mute, it will be good. Uh, so again, let me start by saying a very good morning. It's been a wonderful day, and I think it is giving me immense pleasure to be sharing my thoughts on globalization. First, let me give you a context of, how it is relevant in this current scenario. I did my schooling from a school in Dindakal. Then for me, at that point in time, globalization was about moving from where I was born, moving from where I had my roots. I had to move to Chennai to do my engineering. Then I had to move to Jamshedpur to do my MBA from XLRA Jamshedpur. And globalization at that point in time was always about moving from your place to go and look for globalization in terms of what's happening around the world. But I think things have changed quite a bit. Go about global events sitting at home by a touch of a button. This immense development is thanks to technology, and this very webinar, which where I'm talking to you from Chennai, and we've got around 200 participants from across India, mostly from Tamil Nadu, but even I'm told a couple of people from overseas. Now, this has been made possible by technology. And so let us see what globalization is all about in this current context. Is it about moving? Is there a playbook? Is there a particular way of understanding globalization? The person who introduced me had told you, I have worked in different types of companies, both Indian and multinational. I've also been overseas. I used to work in a global role, both from Helsinki, Finland, and also from India. So I have seen global multinationals operate, and in my view, there is no particular playbook for saying globalization. Let us first start by looking at what globalization actually means. If you see this slide, I've given you a broadly held definition of globalization. Globalization, according to definition, textbook definition, is a process of interaction, integration, and it talks about stakeholders in terms of people, companies or corporates, governments, and this is all being driven by international trade and investment. But while this looks this is widely held view in terms of what globalization is all about. But in my experience, there is no one playbook for becoming global. What I mean by that is, there is a PDCA cycle, that is plan, do, check, act. If you want to improve your efficiency, if you want to improve your processes, there are the 4 P's of marketing. Similarly, there are management concepts for managing people, managing products, managing change. But there is no one such template for managing globalization. If you see the history of globalization, you will find that globalization have always been a fact when there are some huge global events or events with global implication, which the business leaders and the people who are running countries thought it fit to leverage and become global. So that is how things have moved. There is no one template, and we are currently, because of this COVID, standing at a cusp of an event which is again a global event. This pandemic of COVID 19 has affected almost all countries, and we are standing at a cusp in terms of how this is going to change the world all over. Now, for this change to happen, we don't have to go out, we don't have to look out, we need to start looking inwards. Now, first, before I get to what we need to be doing, let me give you, in my opinion, 12 very significant events which had global implication, which enabled globalization and also which sustained globalization in a global way. Now, these 12 events, in my opinion, are very significant. There could be one or two others, but broadly, these 12 events shaped globalization across the world. The first one is immigration. Immigration started in the 17th century. Now, according to the World Economic Forum, today we have 300 million immigrants world over. Million is 10 lakh is 1 million. So just multiply that into 10 to get lakhs in terms of number of people. Now these are the number of people who have moved to find a job, who have relocated from one country to another country to start their life, to start their livelihood in a different country. So immigration is the first single, people felt I can travel, people felt I can move, start making my living in another country where I speak a different language, where there could be different people of different color, where people could be of different religion, but still I will be able to sustain myself, I will be able to grow myself. So this immigration is the first significant global event which triggered off globalization. The second important thing is global universities. Now, I think our old universities, Nalanda, etc., are before the trend of immigration started. But we will stick to the recent ones in the last under 200 years. And if you see universities like Oxford in the UK and many such universities in the US have been the stepping stone of immigration. Like for example, in US, almost I would say 70% of the people who moved from India would be people who first went there to do a course, then got a job, then settled down there, got their green card and citizenship. So second important thing which further, US is called a land of immigrants because US by itself did had a native American Indian population, but that is a very small, probably 5-6%. 95% of the US population is made up of immigrants. And US is the torchbearer in terms of globalization in the world. So the second important factor is global universities. Now, the third significant thing which happened was we had the World War between 1942 to 1945. And for the World War, Germany, US predominantly, and some other countries in Europe built huge military infrastructure. The military infrastructure was made to build tanks, to build guns and aircrafts and such huge military industrial infrastructure post the World War had to be put to some use. And then they started using it for civilian purposes. That is when mass production of consumer goods, fast moving consumer goods, durable goods, automobile, all those things happened from 1945 onwards when the economies started to understand that building arms and ammunition is not going to further economy. There is, we won the war, we've got the money, we need to start producing in large scale material which people can use. And that is how you started seeing a lot of Ford cars, Coca-Cola, newspapers, chewing gum, cigarettes. These are all, the start of a huge globalization pandemic which is happening post 1945, post World War II. In the 1960s, we had a very significant, till 1960s, it was products which were moving around. It could be a car. A car was very difficult to export because there was nothing called the CKD. Which today, initially when a foreign company sets up shops, they send you CKD. That is completely knocked down kits. So all you have to do is open up, assemble it together, and put a car together. But those days, if you have to ship a car, you have to ship it in a full made-up form. So it was not possible. But there were smaller products like chewing gum, the newspapers, etc. were going around. But in 1960s, with the onset of transistors, the globalization of ideas, entertainment, music happened worldwide. I remember when I was growing up in Dindukal, uh, Ceylon radio was very popular. Those days, Indian radio was there, but I think Ceylon radio caught the imagination of a lot of people, more because it was foreign. And again, they were speaking Chase Tamil, and they were also putting a lot of very recent songs, etc. Yeah. So, Ceylon radio was very popular. The news from Ceylon radio gave you also a lot more uncensored world news to people in India. So 1960s saw the advent of ideas spreading around the world because of the rampant production and distribution of transistors the world over. 1960s saw the advent of management concepts going global. Peter Drucker was the person, the father of modern management thought, who spoke about efficiency and effectiveness. Philip Kotler is the management guru in terms of marketing. He spoke about how to take products for a global, how to manage customers, how to do segmentation, etc. I think Philip Kotler was the way to do it. Ram Charan was the person instrumental in talking about human aspects of building organizations. Because till that time, Drucker spoke about missions, missionary, how to become effective, production, markets, etc. Kotler again spoke about markets, how to reach products, so, logistics, supply chain, etc. But for the first time, Ram Charan started speaking about people were producing, started speaking about people who were recruiting, people who were doing the accounts, people who were selling the products to a global market or even a local market. So the fact that organizations can be successful if we manage people well was started by Ram Charan. C.K. Prahalad is again a father of modern management thinking who spoke about strategic management, who spoke about bottom of the pyramid, because till the time products were made for people who can afford. So it was always top of the pie, most expensive cars, most expensive whatever. But CK Prahalad said there is a huge market at bottom of the pyramid and started pushing companies to look at and capture those kind of markets. So these kind of management concepts were going global in the 1960s. So what was being taught, what was being practiced in the US became a basis for companies in India, became a basis for company operating in Vietnam or China or whichever part of the world we were happening, they were operating in. So that was the 1960s. In the 70s, the first major thing happened when there was an oil embargo. There is a group of countries called the oil producing and exporting countries, basically the Gulf countries and few other South African countries who were producing crude oil. Now they decided that they will not sell to countries which have a relationship with Israel. So we're not getting into the politics of whether Israel is right, wrong. But what happened was because of this embargo, there was a panic across the world. Oil prices went through the roof, and there was a clamor for smaller cars because till the time Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, all these companies were manufacturing big cars, cars which were using a huge amount of petrol to travel 10 kilometers. But the Japanese came in and they, by having fuel efficient cars, small cars, won the global market. So people started importing uh, Japanese cars which are smaller, easier to import, because if you were able to export 200 a General Motor huge car in a tanker, we can do 400 Japanese small cars in the same tanker. So the countries were willing to pick up more. So there was a global movement towards that small Japanese car. This was again very significant because the world changed from big is beautiful to small is elegant. The seventh very important thing happened. This was the first time in the history of the world when 1 billion people watched a boxing match between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. Till the time, I mean, India played its hockey, India played its cricket, and there were matches. If India goes to UK and played a test series, we will get to know it the next day from the newspaper, or at best we will hear the, since the radios have already started coming in, the commentary, running commentary of what was happening in terms of cricket. But for the first time, there was a global sport where 1 billion people watched this huge match called for a boxing match between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. Now, this again was, breaking barriers. Till that time, we thought our country, we speak only about cricket, we speak about only hockey. That border was breaking, that boundary was breaking. Here, people suddenly realized that they can do any sport, they can watch any sport. And that was a big event which happened in it broke the mental mind map of people. Till that time, we had a very restrictive view, but this one changed the view. I was able to watch the match, which somebody sitting in Japan, somebody sitting in Dubai, or somebody sitting in France were watching it. And just imagine the sheer joy of doing that. So this again changed the global mindset. Then the eighth very significant event was the growth of music and global bands. Now, what was happening is there was a big famine in Africa, so people were dying of hunger, starvation, and the music groups started having concerts, rock concerts, music concerts, whereby people coming in paid tickets, paid money for the tickets, and whatever was contributed went to the countries in Africa. Now, the important thing here is two things was happening. One, if something was happening in Africa, I can contribute sitting in London. I can contribute sitting in Singapore. Was again a big change in mindset. So the world was beginning to become a global village. I can support, I can help, kind of a mindset was happening. Philanthropy at a global level was beginning to build up. This also ensured the growth of music across boundaries. So people started watching ABBA. The picture you see on the left side, for guys, that is Freddie Mercury. The person in front in his banyan, he is from India. Freddie Mercury is from India. He went to UK and became a huge rock star. He had a band called Queen. Now, why I'm saying that is the boundaries are being broken. The global mindset is happening. 1988 89 is again a very significant year because in this year, the Berlin Wall fell. I'm sure some of you know, or most of you know, that the Berlin Wall was basically dividing the uh, capitalist, capitalistic European countries and the communist Russian countries. So this was in Berlin, and it fell in 1989. So then the markets became bigger. I think the countries across the world moved away from communalism, and probably today we have socialism, but no communism anywhere. Even in Russia, there is a form of socialism with a very big capitalistic bent of mind. China, again, there is a form of socialism with a very strong capitalistic bent of mind. So this again, what it created was world is one big market. That is again a significant thing which changed the world in 1989. The Gulf War, I think, when the USA attacked Iraq, which had Saddam Hussein as the ruler of the country, this was the first war which was televised globally 24 by 7. I think before 91, I remember in India definitely, even world over, Doordarshan will come to a standstill at 10 o'clock. And I think, probably Saturday, Sundays, it went on till 11 o'clock. And it starts at 6 and closes at 10. That's it. That is what you got in terms of TV. But 91 changed it. The Gulf War was televised 24 by 7 across the world. A new television industry opened up. Now, not only the opening up of the television industry, but you got impacted sitting here watching about what was happening to Iraq. You were being influenced. You were getting politically trained, politically educated, becoming more globally conscious about events across the world. This was again thanks to the advent of 24 by 7 news channels, which started in 1991. Again, in the 90s, the most significant event was the advent of mobile phones, the GSM standard. Nokia ushered this into the world. Then there were other companies like Motorola, BlackBerry, Apple, which came in later. But this was very significant. You need to understand one thing: all the other countries moved from digital analog to digital computers, desktop computers, and then went on to mobile. But India was one country which almost completely moved away out of computer revolution and moved straight away into the mobile revolution. The number of households which had desktop in the 90s in India will be less than 5%. But the number of people who do not have a smartphone in India in the 2000s will be less than 5%. Can you see the change from less than 5% having a desktop in the 90s to less than 5% not having smartphones in 2000s? So that was the kind of change which was happening in India. I remember, this was a very funny incident. I need to share it with you. Once, we were traveling and near Dindikal, I, saw this people. We stopped for a cup of tea, and there were a lot of people who were doing this Manrega work. This happened recently, 5-7 years back, and so they had also come there, and suddenly there was this lady who got a phone call from, I'm not sure whether son or son-in-law, from overseas about an emergency. So imagine, that was the reach of telephone, mobile telephony in India. So this has become a global standard. This again has made a world a smaller place. Today, I'm sure, I don't know how many of you are watching this webinar on your phone. There is an opportunity to see webinars on phone. There is an opportunity to see podcasts on phone. I see people walking around with phones, music, watching short clippings of music videos. I think it's widely prevalent across India. I would say less than 5% actually have do not have a smartphone. Even those people will occasionally swipe into so the data mode and on a prepaid format, etc. But anyway, the message here is mobile telephony made the world a smaller place. So there was a lot of things which are happening in terms of advancement, both in terms of technology, both in terms of education, etc. There are learning courses. Companies today are able to send learning podcasts to phones of people who can watch it on the phone. So it's revolutionizing almost every aspect of, there are telemedicine available nowadays. So mobile phone is another significant event which sustained globalization in a larger scale. Of course, 2000 brought in a completely different internet world where we are today completely networked. We are on the World Wide Web. We are all www. Everybody is linked. Now, the important thing is whether you are connected to the link or not. If you're connected to the link, you have same access to the Google as I have. You have the same access to the PayPal as somebody sitting in Delhi as, or somebody sitting in Dindigul as. So the internet era of the 2000s has again completely changed the world global scenario. Finally, the 12th significant event, which again happened, if you see 1975, India and China were almost same in terms of GDP. We were same in terms of economic growth. We were same in terms of economic power. But 80s and about later, 90s and later, I think gradually China started becoming the global manufacturing hub. Now, this did a couple of things. One, the markets became smaller because to ship a product from USA all the way to this part of the globe would be a lot more difficult than to ship things from China to other parts of the world. Similarly, once the model of China being a global manufacturing hub was established, then companies started wondering, why can't I, if India is a big market, why can't I have a factory in India? Like when Nokia set up its factory in Chennai, before that, in China, they already had 3 huge cell phone factories, Nokia factories, which were making both the smartphone and the dumb phone. But so this was so where companies found it easy to replicate a global manufacturing hub model. China was the reason for it. China started the phenomenon of global manufacturing hubs. Now, like I said in the beginning, there is no global playbook saying that okay, fine, I've started a company, I want to become global. What do I do? Is there a formula? Is there a template? No. If you see globally, there are few companies who have multiple brands and categories of businesses and operate in small number of companies. And similarly, there are some companies which operate in more than 200 countries, but they have a restricted number of products. So it is a choice which company makes. It is again the global events which help companies do what they can do in terms of becoming global. For example, Zoom, till this COVID-19 happened, this Google Meet by which we are meeting, Google Meet used to be called Google Hangout. Google Hangout had a facility of only 10 people coming in for a conference call. But today, Google Meet can support video conferencing with more than 100 people. Zoom was a very recent product which has captured the world market, which is again a free video conferencing facility for the global audience. So, which is helping webinars. So there again, I think it all depends on how companies are able to leverage their products for a global market based on certain global events. Now let us look at some brands and products which are available in multiple countries. If you see these brands, like whether it is a Google or a Colgate or a Master credit or a debit card, they're available in more than 200 countries across the world. If you see a Dove soap or a Pantene shampoo or a Maggi noodle, they are available in more than 160 countries. So all these are possible because of global manufacturing hub, because people have become global, mindset. They want to try out new products. They're getting bombarded because of television, because of radio, because of newspapers, of what is happening across the world. New product launches, any part of the world is beamed to anybody sitting anywhere in the world because of the advent of internet. So today, they know any site you go, there are. If you go to YouTube, there will be advertisements popping up every 5 minutes in terms of pushing a certain product. So you are becoming aware. Now Motorola has introduced a flip phone. So that, I think, is captured. If you open up a TV or go to Tata Sky, you can see the advertisement. So advertisements. So people are becoming more aware. The brands are becoming more global. The other very important thing which has happened, which is not product, which is not a physical product, but a person dependent, is the world of sports, which has also become global. Today, I think F1 car racing, we don't follow much in India, but there is a population which follows in India. There is a F1 race track in Malaysia. There's so as close as Malaysia, which is not very far from India. There a lot of people. I mean, we have golf courses across India, and Tiger Woods is again a global character. Tennis, Roger Federer. Soccer, Brazilian team or a German team or a Manchester United. Everywhere, there are people, Kerala, West Bengal. Everybody knows about Manchester United. Few people outside Kerala and West Bengal who follow soccer would know about Manchester United, will know about the World Cup. Similarly, softball, Los Angeles Lakers. So people, so these are all become global. So sitting in India, I want to, because I love, my team is Manchester United. I want to have a Manchester United T-shirt, and there is a Manchester United franchisee shop in Bangalore. So, the amount of globalization and products and features which are coming out is immense. The companies are all capitalizing and seeing whether anything that can be globalized and productized, they want to keep pushing it. Levi's jeans were the first truly global brand. I think it went all over, easy to carry, and it was across the world. It was the first global brand, so to say. Probably then came the cigarettes and all of that. But I think in terms of first global brand, Levi's for jeans was the first global brand. Then we have sports channel, sports franchisee, the IPL. We get people, we have Australian players, British players, Pakistani players, all playing together in India. Similarly, soccer. If you go to Manchester United, there will be people from different parts of the world playing there. So sports again with regional appeal catching up. There is a European Cup, which is again very popular. There is a British Cup, which is popular. So regional franchisees, regional appeal based on leveraging or making use of global reach of sports is also becoming abundant. Olympics, soccer are global events once in 4 years, but they do capture, everybody's imagination. We send a team to the Olympics. We have not qualified for Olympics global soccer, but I think I would definitely say more than 20 to 30% of Indian population would be watching a global soccer. Now, having spoken about it, the one thought comes to all of us is that what have we as a country given to the globe? If I spoke about Levi's jeans, I spoke about a Sony transistor, a Japanese Toyota car, the global brand in terms of sports personality. What have we as a country given? I think this is a list from BBC. BBC is a world-renowned broadcasting company. Now they're talking about 10 events, 10 global events which we have given the globe. Zero as a concept, as a number. I think India was the first to give it. Yoga is another one. Flush toilet. We started when many centuries back, but we have come the whole cycle. Today we again back to make sure that Swachh Bharat is a campaign, that we have a clean Bharat, where everybody has got access to toilet. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, the first flush toilet went from India. Snakes and ladders game went from India. Shampoo went from India. Even Jagdish Chandra Bose was instrumental in developing the technology for radio broadcasting. Fiber optics, which is helping supporting the webinar, the currently that we are doing right now, was again created by an Indian called Narendra Kapani. The pen drive, the USB port, Ajay Bhatt. Bollywood is a global phenomenon now. A movie, song and dance, movies as an event, I think is a big factor which went from India. So I think today we need to start relooking. We have the example Narendra Kapani. Today we have many of the US companies where CEOs are from India. But I think we have COVID-19 has created a situation where we need to start relooking in terms of what can we do locally and what can we develop locally. But before I get there, I want to again, uh, show you two, three slides in terms of how this globalization has also helped in a lot of things. One, I think the typewriter as a standard anywhere, the QWERTY keyboard for a computer was all one standard, which is called the QWERTY type. This is a global standard. So whichever phone you open up your keypad, this is the format, and this is a global format. Telegraph, the Morse code, was again a global code, so that everybody was able to listen to the messages and use the same standard for sending in and receiving messages. Signages worldwide are common. So a red is stop whether you are in Washington, Delhi, Tokyo, or in Moscow. Similarly, if you go to airports, because many times when we are traveling, you find that global signages are a big help, because you can't either read the local language, you can't read sometimes even English, but there are arrows, there are certain numbers, numerals, which help you figure out where you have to go. So this again is a global standard, blue and white, black and white. But there are still, certain areas, there are no clear standards, which is causing problem when you travel. For example, left-hand drive, right-hand drive, we are used to right-hand drive, but there are countries in Europe which follow left-hand drive, which means you need to keep right. When you do a left-hand drive, you need to keep right. In India, we have a right-hand drive and we keep left. So so when you're moving country to country, this causes problem. Plug points are a huge problem. You will find that there is no one standard in terms of plug points across the world. So when I was used to be in Nokia, we had a company called Falcom, which used to make only the adapter, the phone adapter. So it was a huge company just making phone adapters, because there were so many standards across the world. Even shoes, shirts, textile, I think there are different standards being followed across the world. Now I'm told India has developed an India specific standard, which we will very soon have, which mean apart from this you're going to have one more, so that because we with the 1.23 billion people are it's a huge market, so we're going to be having our own standards sizes, be it shoes, be it chappal, be it shirt or trousers. Now let's spend the next 10-15 minutes on COVID, which is a global pandemic, which is going to change a lot of things. Like I spoke about the 12 events, this is the 13th event which is going to shake the world up. Now, the next few slides is about preparing or sharing my thoughts in terms of how each of one of us have a responsibility to make a difference in whatever we are doing. I will share my thoughts on that. Um, I think that this is a April standard. May, I think today we are first on June. I've not updated it, but I think to give you the numbers worldwide, we when I did this chart till end of April, we had 1.66 lakh people deaths across the world, but now it has moved beyond 10 lakh deaths, beyond 1 million deaths. US itself has got 100 million deaths. India, so far, we have done extremely well. Our cases are going up, but the recovery rates are fantastic when compared to the global scenario. Our mortality rate, fatality rate, people dying out of COVID 19 is again significantly lesser than many other comparable countries. So that is a very significant thing. Uh, because of the lockdown, which became a global standard, different countries started at different point in time. So economy has got affected in a big way, and so each country has come out with a different formula in terms of stimulus. I don't want to get into too much of economy, but in economics, you can stimulate growth either in the supply side. When I say supply side, helping companies, products, manufacturing, credit, etc., to grow so that demand grows. The other one is helping the demand stimulus, where you help the demand grow. So putting money in people, giving credit for people so that they're able to afford. So there is always a balance, and companies are trying different formula because economics is not a science. It is a it's a kind of a area where based on statistics they try to project a possible scenario, but at the end of the day the decision maker has to decide whether they're going to push the stimulus side or the demand side or the supply side, whether they're going to give cash more for the demand or for the supply. So these kind of decisions are at a global level, but every country is facing a similar problem. So these are numbers in terms of global stimulus at a world level. This is the International Monetary Fund view, which says that probably India and China will be the only two countries which will go back to the 2019 levels as and when they start opening up the economy and start moving forward, because they have a manufacturing hub. They have also huge markets. So they can spur growth both at the supply side and the demand side. So the whole world is looking at us in terms of how we are going to capitalize the changing scenario post lockdown. Now let us look at some facts, because which is very critical. Now, if you see that China economy declined by 6.8% last quarter, that is, China lost $215 billion in one quarter. And to note that 150 countries have annual GDP of less than $250 billion per annum is very significant, which means it's a colossal loss for the global economy. So we are staring at a huge catastrophe at a global level. According to one study, the 45 days lockdown has cost the world $12 trillion of economic activity, which is the 12 to 13 trillion dollar is the size of Chinese economy. We are a $3 trillion economy. So just imagine, four times India's economy has got impacted. One, China is gone because of this 45 days lockdown. So, it is huge. There are other very significant things which are happening across the world during the 45 days. One is the flights have all only 33% of all flights are flying. In India, nothing is moving, no transport except the road transport within the city or within the town. But there again, there is a lot of curfew. Oil prices for the first time in 20 years has come to less than 28. It even touched $20 per barrel. This is again very significant for a country like India, which imports a lot of oil because we don't have our own oil fields. We are dependent on the Gulf, we are dependent on US, we are dependent on South American countries for oil. And this price coming down is in one way good for India as an economy. Sporting events have been closed or postponed. Olympics is being postponed. Colleges, I'm sure you're aware, have been closed. Hopefully in July, we take a decision to start again in August. But online, this again has created a huge platform for online teaching. So there's a huge amount of online teaching going on. Global companies like Coursera. Coursera is a global e-company in the field of education and development. They have a lot of courses. A lot of universities offer short 1 month, 2 month certificate courses, which some of them are free, some of them don't cost you 4,000, more than 3,000, 4,000 rupees, but you can get a certificate on artificial intelligence from, say, University of Edinburgh. But so this is being caught on. But the fact of the matter is, the colleges and schools are closed. Now, while we see COVID as the main theme, there are very clear sub themes playing out in all the countries. These 9 things which I'm talking about is the factor which is being played on in all the countries across the world. Every country is following it, facing it. One, I think there is a very strong China conspiracy theories. We in India recently we had the problem in Ladakh region, but even before that, whether it was Wuhan virus, COVID, where did COVID start? Why did COVID start in Wuhan? All kinds of China conspiracy theories are being built on. This is at a global level. Every country is facing it. Every country is becoming nationalistic, where borders are closed, no incoming flights into India, no outgoing flights out of India. This is the same scene across the world. Countries are now wondering, how can I make my economy grow again? So they are all focused on their own countries because, like I said earlier, it is a global catastrophe. So we have to start looking at our own country, and this is being done across the world. So while we have to think global, we have to understand this global situation. We need to start focusing on local events. Locally, how do I start my college again? Locally, how do I make my economy strong again? Locally, how do I support my companies which are manufacturing, which are producing in my country? So this is the scene across the world. Third one is the oil price. Because of the oil price, which I said is coming down, is having an impact because apart from the Gulf and few other countries, I think 80% of the world is importing oil, which means when the oil price goes down, it is good for them, good for every country. So that is another important factor. Vaccine development. Everybody is talking about a vaccine for COVID-19. India is also doing some work, but this again is a sub theme because unless we fight it, we don't know, whether this lifting of lockdown is good, bad, dangerous. So vaccine has to come, and it will come in any case not before 1 year, because it has got its own protocol. First, you have to develop the vaccine, then you have to test the vaccine, then you got to get the various approvals. So, which means the vaccine hitting the market will not be there before June 2021. So that's the kind. So whoever gets it will have a significant advantage in the world scene. But vaccine development is another something which is running. Stronger governments. Now we in India saw, and this is the same everywhere. I think central governments, the governments are becoming stronger because people are clueless. They are looking up to the governments to help them overcome this pandemic. In 1918, there was a Spanish flu, which was the last big global pandemic. We had in between, swine flu and SARS and all of that, but it was not as global as the Spanish flu in 1918. And in 1918, the number of people who died are almost 10 to 20 times what happened till now in India, in the world. So I think there is panic, and the governments are playing based on the past 1918 experiences, trying to do something different, trying to be more proactive. Central banks. When I say central bank, every country will have a bank like the Reserve Bank of India. Everybody is looking up to the central bank to see whether you will have more credit, there will be more money into the system, whether companies will be helped, whether loans will be waived, loans will be given, all of those things. So central banks are again playing a very key role across all countries. Like I said earlier, supply chains, global supply chains, because today if China, it's a global manufacturing hub, but China is a problem because of the Wuhan virus, then, the global supply chain is getting affected because, Apple phone only recently moved more, almost 40-50% of its production capacity to India. Before that, if you're buying an Apple phone, it has to come from China. If China is affected, the global supply chain of Apple phones is affected. So similarly, I gave you an example of a phone, but it could be anything. So that is going to affect everyone. The US election, because like I said, my first slide was on immigration, and and in that slide I told you how US as a country of immigrant and as a global leader in terms of globalization has always led global thought, global movement in terms of globalization. So the US election is going to happen this year, and that is again a sub theme. So whether Trump will come back, Trump won't come back, what kind of policies will Trump continue, what kind of policies, if the new guy, if a new person comes over, what kind of policies will he follow? All those are other sub themes which are running. The last one is the role of media, which is very critical, not to create panic, not to support, but question government, but be a unbiased reporting agency. So role of media is again another sub theme. A lot of news about fake news, how to control fake news, etc. is happening across the world. So if you see, these 9 sub themes are playing everywhere, and you can relate to these 9 sub themes in the country, our country itself, in India itself. Now let us look at some facts. The President of the United States, I told you, is a global, it's a country of immigrants which leads the world. But I think, after Mr. Trump came in 2016, I think, he's been very clear in terms of making America great again, and as becoming more and more nationalistic in terms of focusing heavily on America. Even recently, World Health Organization, I think 2-3 days back, he made an announcement that is pulling out of the World Health Organization. So so who's now, the question is, who's going to be stepping in, because we are talking about 200 countries. Now if there is no one global country to lead the way, so who's going to step in to build consensus among all these countries? There again, I think, by being an initial propounder of non-aligned movement, etc., and again actually taking a very median stand, not being too pro US or too pro USSR. India has got a chance, but we need to wait and watch how it pans out. But there is a definite need for a country to step up, or an agency to step up and build world consensus. Like I said, vaccine going to take 1 year, but till that happens, I think everybody is going to focus locally. So globalization, in a way, is going to be in recession, and the country that gets the vaccine first will win big. Naturally, they will price the vaccine, they will manufacture, export, and they will make their uh, become big by making the vaccine. Now, the countries, again, I think there is a very clear pro anti China happening amongst countries. And because countries are becoming either pro or anti-China. Companies who will also start to follow, because they operate in countries and they can't take a independent stand. So we are going to see more and more countries becoming either pro China or against China. There is already people or news about how many companies are planning to move out of China. Japan has already spoken about huge support, close to $1 trillion or something, to support companies to move out manufacturing bases out of China. So this is going to be a global trend which we will see in the coming months and years. So if I talk about catastrophe, etc. So is it going to be bad? I think no. I think this pandemic, yes, has created havoc, has created economic mess in many countries because of the 45-day lockdown. But there is an opportunity, and that opportunity is by being vocal about local. I think we need to not believe that we are at the mercy of anybody, any country. We are part of the globe, and we can make change happen in wherever we are. We need to build that confidence. We need to believe that we can change, because we are a big country. We have our own we have our own global manufacturing ecosystem. We have our own customer support base. I mean, 1.3 billion people in this country, you can't get a bigger market for your products. So, which means if we do products, services which are world class, global, and start supplying to within India itself, I think we will be, overcoming the obstacles. We can make India great again. I want to leave all of you with this message. We are at a shift where this COVID 19 has given us an opportunity to think global and be local. Do things locally with a global mindset. Do things locally with a global impact. Do things locally which are global standards for our own people, the 1.3 billion people who live in this country. I want to close here with this slide, that we are going to turn around this global phenomenon of COVID 19 is an opportunity. Let us seize it. On that optimistic note, I close now, and I'm open to questions. And I think if one person can pick up all the questions and throw it, because I said I will speak for 1 hour and probably have question answer for 15 to 30 minutes. So I've done justice. I've done my presentation in 1 hour, leaving you on an optimistic note that this COVID 19 is a debacle, but also gives us an opportunity. And we need to seize that opportunity by being vocal about local. Now, open to questions.
So thank you, sir. Thank you. It was an engaging session. It was very informative for the participants, and it gave the entire global scenario in just a gist of an hour. So it was really engaging, sir. So now I would like to ask the participants, if they are having any questions, they can post their questions in the chat box. So we've already received a couple of questions. Dr. Radha, she's asking, globalization trend of India in trade helpful to our country economic development during COVID or after COVID?
I think it's a good question. I think post COVID, we have a huge opportunity to improve trade, improve economy, just by focusing on giving global services, global products, nothing average. China turned around after the World War. I mean, when they were atom bombed, they were in complete shambles. They came back. How? By doing quality service. Whether you're talking, whether you are providing services, whether whatever work you're doing, I think if we start doing it at a global level, global standard level, I think we will be able to definitely ride high on this COVID-19. It is an opportunity for us.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Mr. Anish. He's asking, having lived in a global world for so long and having tasted global products and services, do you think localization would help us move forward?
Yeah, I think, see, when I say local, we definitely localization is the key. This is not in the narrow sense of, I will ignore all whatever is happening in the world and I will do what I think is right. I think we need to evolve. I think our country is always evolved. Uh, you know, if we have something global, like yoga, for example, was a went from India outside because it is a global well-being instrument. You practice yoga, you can definitely have a very meaningful, health, spiritually uplifted and healthy life. Now, so we gave it to the world. Similarly, there is a huge opportunity for taking a lot of our local products, services global. And this is an opportunity. So for that, first we need to ourselves, start believing in those products and services. We need to start consuming those products and services and give up this, foreign craze. Because I grew up in the 70s and 80s, when I grew up, there was this huge craze for foreign products, foreign services. And I think we need to now start looking at consuming our own products and services which are global standards, which can be globally relevant. I think we need to create those kind of products.
Thank you, sir. Another question is, going forward, do you think India has the possibility of emerging as a superpower and a strong economic power? What, according to you, should India do reach such a state?
I think there is definitely an opportunity. 1975, during my presentation, I told you India and China were on the same level. Okay, now some global events like they becoming the manufacturing hub, India not being chosen as a manufacturing hub, etc., etc., made them grow faster than us. But I think we have an opportunity to become economically strong. We are $3 trillion company. We are the fourth largest economy in the world. Okay. Now we need not copy a US or a France in terms of economic growth. We because we are in a situation where we have a huge rural population. We have a huge population which is still below poverty line. So we our development should be like I spoke about earlier in the six CK Prahalad's bottom of the pyramid. We need to have local products, services which are of global standard available for our bottom of the pyramid. And I think that is the way where we will grow far stronger. I think the government again is focusing heavily on the MSME sector to spur the growth, which is, I'm not saying big companies, big corporates are not essential, but I think MSME will be the strong sector which will take us to the next level. And I think government has started focusing on that, and it is up to entrepreneurs, up to engineers, up to faculty, all of us to chip in, see the opportunity, leverage our skills, develop our skills, leverage our skills, and create world-class products and services.
Thank you, sir. Another question from Dahira. He's asking the increase in the rate of gold would cause any impact after this all over the world after this pandemic?
Uh, See, I think, increase, you're talking about import cost, I presume. See, if it is import cost, I think we will definitely not be importing, we will be importing, but maybe looking at a lot of import substitution going forward. And I think that is going to be one way we can grow. And country like India should focus on import substitution, and that will be focused on the government, I'm sure, in the coming years. So your cost need not go up. If the petrol prices are going down, again, there is a benefit for manufacturing, for travel, transport, everything. So I don't see a possibility of cost escalating. Our inflation rates will be kept in check. Our cost of production can also be kept in check.
Thank you, sir. Another question from Mr. Godson. He's asking, what do you think as the repercussions of globalization with specific reference to education?
Yeah. Like I said, today, that is going to be a very significant thing. We don't have to, look at, I can't get my visa to go abroad. I can't, study in this university because I can't afford, those kind of questions are not going to be relevant anymore. Like I said, Coursera, Coursera, is an app which is available. You can go there. I'm just quoting one, but there are multiple apps where there are universities across the world which are offering courses for you to, in your branch. Could be technology, could be sociology, could be humanities, but there are definitely courses available where you can go log in. Whatever the teachers your college is support teaching you, you can supplement it with global knowledge, and that can be done now. You need not say that I don't have the opportunity. Everybody has an opportunity because everybody has an access to these courses. Like I said, some of them are actually free courses and some of them are paid courses, but even the paid courses are not very expensive. But I think you should start exploring what is being offered on the global scene.
Thank you, sir. And another question from Mr. Anand. Uh, Potential skills that we have to improve to get a better livelihood post pandemic COVID, sir.
See, one is, I think, we very important is, I think we need to be confident that it is possible. And I think, that is going to be very significant because I think there have been a lot of negative uh, Maya which has been created, which is actually pulled down because we've been locked down 45 days, migrant labor issue, people going away. A lot of things have happened, uh, but I think first important thing is be confident. I think make sure that you believe that it is possible. And I'm telling you, my entire 1 hour was to tell you that it is possible. We are living in a country like India, which has got a huge manufacturing base, which has got a huge service sector, and which has got a huge population. So it is possible for us. We need to develop the right skills and leverage the opportunity by believing, yes, we can. Yes, I can.
Thank you, sir. Another question from Godson. Do you think virtual global classrooms could overtake the regular model of face-to-face classrooms? Because he's feeling that there could be a loss in emotional connect in a physical classroom.
Yeah. See, I think it is a very tricky question. Uh, but I need to say that what is going to happen is we're going to see more and more um, a combined course. Where what I mean is you will have uh, professors taking physical classrooms, but before that they would have given you assignments which you can do. So you may not have full 9 to 5 or 9 to 4 kind of classrooms. You might have 2 classes, 3 classes in a day, and the 2 or 3 hours or 1 hour in a day, followed by a lot of online thing, which is going to be a reality which we need to start developing. Now, how quickly will it happen? Will it happen within the next 2 years, another 3 years, another 5 years? It's a question mark. But I can tell you one thing from the corporate world. I think there was a time when 10 years back, meetings were all when you had a company-wide corporate, the senior management meeting, which normally happens once a month or once a quarter, everybody used to come in from different parts of the country, like from Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta to Chennai, if the Chennai company is headquartered in Chennai. And they spend one day and they go back the next day. But now video conferencing is the way almost 80% of the companies are doing the business. They might have one meeting at a face-to-face level, but other three quarterly meetings are not face-to-face. And this shift happened in the last 10 years. So I see a very similar shift happening even in education, where in the next 10 years, I think there will be a blended learning where we will not. I mean, you need to the person said, you need to have that teacher-student connect because knowledge. We're not talking about knowledge. We're talking about wisdom, which can happen only in a live connect classrooms. So which will continue to be there. It will never be taken off. You will have a teacher, but the teacher might speak to through the medium of internet, but there will be a teacher-student connect, physical connect with the blended e-learning. So that will be the way forward.
Thank you, sir. Another question is from Mr. Anish. What hindrance or threat should India address so as to ensure it seizes this opportunity of emerging as a strong economic power?
It's a wonderful question. I think the country itself is looking up to, the governments to actually, because the 45-day lockdown has shaken up the confidence of people. So the country is looking forward to some positive stimulus from the government, all governments, state and central. And so that is going to be one key to actually overcome this pandemic, the negative effects of this pandemic. And the second most important thing is we people have to believe. I think now is not the time to play politics. Now is not the time to be despondent. Now is the time to be brave. Now is the time to support. Now is the time to voice. If you have an idea, voice the idea. If you have something to say, state it. But be positive, be constructive, and move forward. And I'm sure tomorrow there is a meeting of Confederation of Indian Industry, where the Prime Minister is expected to address the business leaders of India about the next steps going forward. So let us see what happens. It will not be a one, from tomorrow we are like this. It will be an iterative process, because we are a big country, we are a big economy, $3 trillion economy with multiple segments. So it will be an iterative process, but I'm hopeful that everybody with an optimistic frame of mind, sitting together, working forward, looking at the future of India, we can do it.
So thank you, sir. I think we're almost. So another question is popping up. Mr. Swaminathan is asking, what is the most appropriate definition of superpower?
See, I don't know whether you heard of this. Bhutan has got, every country talks about GDP, gross domestic produce. They have a gross happiness index. I think end of the day, people have to be happy. So I think, we are not going to make a country call it a superpower because it's got huge military background or a huge economic background. We are going to say a country is superpower if its people are happy, if people are able to get good health support, good education support, good livelihood support, and lead a happy, contented life wherever they are. And I think, that is going to be the future definition of superpower. Because again, you need to see that, you know, the definition of superpower has been evolving over the last 50, 100 years. During the Cold War, it was a fight between the US and the USSR. It was a fight between capitalism is the right economic theory or communism is the right economic theory. So now that has been sorted out. Socialism is the right economic theory, is the way the world has moved to. Now, once socialism is the platform which the world has accepted, now the next one is, can I make the citizens of my country happy? So that will be the driver of superpower going forward. And I think United Nations itself has got a lot of uh, goals, developmental goals focused on human development, not focused on, will my inflation be 3%? Will my GDP be 7%? No. It is focused on my literacy is good, my longevity is good, everybody is getting clean water, everybody has got a toilet, everybody has got access to health support, hospitals, everybody has got access to education. That will define superpower. So we can all contribute in our own way by, like I said, being vocal about local and creating good water supply, good sanitation, good education support, whatever it is at a local level, and that will be the superpower.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful answer. I think we are done with Q&A. I want to hand over the session to Mr. Chokkalingam, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering. Sir, can you take over?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, on behalf of Entrepreneurship Development Cell and the entire fraternity of the institution, first of all, I extend my sincere thanks to Almighty for making today's webinar a resounding success. I extend my heartfelt thanks to our resource person, Mr. Prabhu Namdekan sir, Senior Vice President, Human Resource, Ramco Groups, who spared his time to grace the occasion on our online platform. Thank you, sir. Today we had a fruitful opportunity to hear your thoughts regarding reflections on globalization. Once again, I thank you, sir. I extend my wholehearted thanks to our principal, vice principal, and the members who worked behind the screen for their solid support to conduct this webinar in a well-defined manner. Last but not least, a big thanks to all the participants who attend this webinar over online platform. Please fill the feedback form which will be mailed to you shortly. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.